unpredictability of Lexer's behavior. Listener discretion is advised. The VOT Network presents the Voices of Terminus Show with your hosts, Yarnilla, Lexer, and Joshua.
Welcome everyone to the Voice of Terminus Show. I am your host Yarnilla, joined by Josh. Say hello, Josh.
Hello, guys.
And then we have Lexer with us. And while Lexer says hello to everybody, I have to quickly plug in my headset because I forgot to do that.
That's fine, because as long as Yarn doesn't realize that this isn't water, we're good.
What are you drinking there, Lex? Huh?
Oh,
yeah.
It's water.
So,
or I should say there's water in it.
Not on. Hello. Come on, man.
It's all about the professionalism here, people. It's all about the professionalism.
His headset doesn't work now, just like his PC.
You speakers.
Oh, poor baby.
I will have to go with speakers. My headset has died.
Well, look at you trying to be all, I can't hear people. Oh, damn, they can hear me.
I hope the feedback doesn't... I'll try and turn you guys down, actually. Let me turn you guys down. I can still hear you. So, Shai isn't with us today. She's feeling a bit under the weather. Lex has kind of infected her somehow over the internet. So,
internet herbs.
To make do with the ugly three.
Internet herbs.
Yep. So today's topic's going to be on talking about what Visionary Realms revealed in the September newsletter on the burning questions about the Wizard and Druid teleportation. And before we kick it off and spread out some questions and talk about this, I want to give Josh and Lex an overview of what VR's envisioned approach will be. So how will Druid and Wizard teleportation be handled was the question. When a Wizard approaches a gateway for the first time, they will be able to discover it. Part of the process includes speaking with an NPC Gatewalker who oversees that portal. Whether through conversation or quest, the Wizard will gain access to that gateway as part of their network. Every gateway they discover in this manner will become part of their ever-increasing network of gateways. Druids will encounter an identical process, utilizing Wandering Stones. Our plan is for the Wandering Stones and gateways to become increasingly available to Druids and Wizards as part of a growing, interconnected network. Wizards and Druids will then be able to access all of their discovered portal locations through a UI window. At higher levels, Druids and Wizards will be able to teleport themselves to the primary gateway or Wandering Stone in order to access the network more quickly. In addition, they'll eventually be able to bring their group members with them through the gateway Wandering Stone network. So, what do you guys think about this approach? What are your thoughts on this after having the initial idea presented by VR? We'll start with you, Josh.
It's overpowered. Ban it. Yeah, I think that you've got an echo on your side, so hearing myself is going to be lousy.
Might remember looking at it working.
That's fine now. It's fine now. I'm not hearing it. But yeah, I think that I guess teleportation is going to be a thing. How it's handled though is the biggest question that we have. Is it going to be fun though? Is it just going to be just some means to an end for the Wizard and Druid, or is it going to have some sort of a lasting appeal where it just doesn't become like some sort of a carry bot carrying everybody left, right, and center at the end of the day?
Okay. What are your thoughts on this, Lex?
For me, teleportation in a game is a hot topic. The more teleportation you have, the more casual the game becomes.
Mm.
not tying it into some form of even minor economy or supply demand situation is kind of like an opportunity missed. So the fact that you can take group members, that's good. Because that, so the biggest issue I'm seeing is how many of these portals or the stones or whatever are going to be around. And I mean, I was kind of hoping for a little more meat on the bone.
Okay. So we'll talk about meat on the bone as we go through this. But do you think, Mike, do you guys think that there are alternatives to this approach that conform more with 2019?
Oh, definitely.
No, I'll let you go on that, Lex. I'm scratching my head on that for now.
Well, the thing is this, like, okay, it's a slight twist, and VR is known for their slight twist. So it's not really surprising that we have a very, very generic form of teleportation with a slight twist to it. But, we're in a genre now that's been in a rut for God knows how long. It's also a genre that is positively drowning in its own fear of being different. Yeah. So I'm always going to have more support for anyone that tries to do something way off the rails different, because at least then you've got the nerve to experiment a little bit. That's not to say I'm disappointed with what I heard about teleportation in Pantheon, but it feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity to me again to just kind of go a little wild with it.
Yeah.
So
in terms of the mechanics, not how where you can go.
Yeah. Josh, got anything to add?
I think what Lex is saying is quite correct. I do think that, it is kind of same old, and with a bit of a twist. However, could there be something like Stargates around, similar to Stargates at the end of the day, where any character can find a key and be able to use that thing? Who knows? Does it have to be specifically linked towards Druids and Wizards? I don't know. That's all part of the mythos and lore at the end of the day. And traditionally, those two classes do have some sort of a teleportation. So, is it a bit lazy? I don't know. It all depends how they handle it. But, I think they could find other ways.
Yeah, I understand the need for them to kind of limit the usability of portals and everything, so it doesn't become mainstream and overpowered, and there has to be some kind of time sink. But the way the approach that they've taken, for me, it's there's this fear factor that people are going to try or ignore the beginning factor or the main factor of it, the experience around teleportation, because it's said that basically at later levels you'll be able to bring your group towards to support your group. So does that also mean, or do you think players will ignore the playability of the class and try and rush towards get into that level where they can utilize the group teleportation? It kind of limits the playability and development of a character, if you know what I mean. Because why shouldn't a druid, or why do we have to limit it this way? Why can't we have some kind of risk factor added to teleportation from the get-go, but also allow people to use the group utility as well from the get-go? Because that would kind of limit people rushing towards, the end levels of the game or the end levels of their class, and they'll miss out on so much going on because they want to be able to port groups, and we know that's a money sink as well. We know porting people throughout the world and everything is a money sink. They'll sell their teleportation services to other players to help move them around the world, to help move them around the zones and everything. So people are going to rush to try and get to that, and that's what I fear would happen if they stick to this approach. So let's go and have a look at, alternative ways we could possibly do this. I've already mentioned this. What if there were risks added to teleportation? So let's say it's rather it being dependent on levels. So you start off as at level 10 you get your single teleportation spell for yourself, for the wizard, for the druid, and then at level 40 or whatever you get the group version of it. Let's eliminate that and say it's a skill. Let's say the more you use teleportation, the better you get at handling teleportation. Because if we look, so it levels up with you, and the better you get to control that teleport that you're opening up, right? Because this would allow you to have some kind of class development for yourself as well. It's something for you to do on the side when your friends aren't around, or your group's not around, your guild's not around. So you can learn to how to open up these gateways, these portals and whatnot. And because it limits the rush factor of racing towards that level where you get that spell. And you, like I said, add risks to it. So some of these risks could be like a debuff. When you use teleportation, you could have a risk. You could have something where instead of being teleported to from A to B, you get ported to C, because of the risk that's involved with it. I know there's a lot of frustration that goes into this kind of idea of being ported somewhere randomly. But I think, if we think about this, right, and there has to be a fine balance, right? Because my initial thought was, let's go wild and say there's a risk for you using this portal earlier on because the wizard or the druid doesn't have the power or the knowledge yet to maintain a group portal or gateway, and then you get shifted somewhere else. The original thought was, let's say you get ported from one continent to the other, or from one end of the zone to the other end of the zone by mistake. Now that would be frustrating. I can understand that, but I'm sure there's ways that they can kind of add in situations where you get shifted away from your original destination.
Yeah.
So
I just want to butt in there, because in these type of games where a specific class gets a teleportation type of an ability, which really unbalances it for other classes in total, it just seems kind of unfair, ultimately, to all classes, because here you're having a class that can teleport from one side of the world to the other at the drop of a hat. Meanwhile, you've got to run your ass off to get there if you want to get there as any other class. What stops everybody from just rolling up an alt wizard and just using that as a mule to basically jump around? At the end of the day. So do we actually say that there should be a timer on the teleportation of something really bad, of like a day that you can use a teleportation before you can use it again, type of a thing, for those type of classes, which makes it really, really hard for you to just spam jump around wherever you want to at the end of the day?
Well, there's other factors that can come into play, right? You've hit it on the nail. But let's go and quickly. Let me go and ask you this question though, right? Let's say instead of doing it the way that they intend to do it, and they allow for teleportation for your group and for yourself from the get go, but with major risks in, and they have a skilling system. And they have risks involved with it, like debuffs or HP loss, etc. Do you guys think that this would be more of a hindrance, or do you think this would be something that would benefit the game and the playing experience?
I certainly feel that any sort of a debuff or anything that happens through the use of teleportation is fair game. Anything to really make anyone picking a wizard or a druid for the sake of using it as a transportation mule to think twice in my mind. So yeah, for me, any type of hindrance at the end of the day, be it a timer on the teleportation, be it debuffing, be it dropping of, like Texan says, port sickness at the end of the day, anything like that, it is definitely, I'd welcome that side of things.
What about you, Lex?
Well, I'm just sitting here kind of reflecting on everything that's been said so far. I mean, making teleportation alts or mules, it's going to happen, no matter what. It's just a part of the game. People rushing that, like power leveling that character so that they can get all the ports early. You know, that's something that's going to happen. How frequent it happens is the matter of debate. When it comes down to, say, if I were a wizard, I want to teleport somewhere, and there's a chance something bad can happen. There's a couple of factors that I need to consider. Well, how bad can it get? I mean, if there's experience loss and there's a chance this thing can blow up and kill me, well, I'm going to say, just how long would it take me to get there? If it's 2 zones over, I'm probably not going to teleport. If it's something to where, well, I might just end up somewhere else in the zone. Depends on the distance, because if it puts me like truly randomly in a zone, that could be a potential pucker up buttercup moment. Or if it's just, it's just which safe spot do you land in, kind of thing, then that I'd be fine with.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where we can talk about it till we're all blue in the face. But no matter what you do, it's something that would have to go through rigorous testing to make sure that whatever you decide to do with it comes out feeling acceptable.
Because that's the thing as well, like acceptance. People say that they want, this is a game we want to play, blah blah blah. But at the same time, they want to have the challenge again. They want to have the social aspect again. They want that risk versus reward. And let's all be honest, right? If, let's say, for instance, now they had something where you get ported, a port goes wrong, and you get ported instead of destination B, you get ported to destination D, somewhere within that zone. You get thrown in the middle of a orc encampment or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
If you think back on your years of playing that game, and you look back at all the fun things that happened to you, I guarantee it, 90% of the time, this would be a discussion point. Remember that time when we tried to use portals early on as a group, and we got ported somewhere completely different, and we had like an oh shit moment? We had to find out. You'll always remember that.
Now here's the thing, though. If you were to link teleportation to a particular skill that levels up through casting, you could even just be completely lazy and just call it a teleportation skill. The higher the skill, the less chance of something bad happening. That, I feel, it would be a little more acceptable, because then you're being rewarded for doing it. You can't get to be like the master of teleportation until you've teleported till your fingers are falling off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you a feeling of, I earned the right to not have anything bad happen. That also gives you a selling point as a player. It also gives you a reason that if so-and-so power levels a wizard or a druid up, well, it doesn't matter that they can teleport everybody, because chances are it's something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. So, so let me go and carry on. We'll go through the risks first, and then there's also an idea of adding benefits to it as well. Adding counter actions to the risks as well that benefit not just the druid and the wizard themselves, but also what Josh mentioned earlier on. The wizard and the druid having these portals that they can teleport everywhere. It's kind of like, they have an advantage over everybody else. Well, that's part of the way the classes are designed. But, you could also add benefits for the other people in your group that can help with the portals. So we'll go through this in a minute, but let me go and have a look at some of the risks that could possibly happen. So like I said, you get debuffs, upon using the air portal, a slow, a root, a dot of some kind, maybe even a HP loss comes into that effect. And these could be random effects that can basically happen.
Yeah.
Even add in zone environmental climate into the picture as well with these portals. So there's some extreme climate going on that has some effect on when you're using a portal. You've got an incoming portal coming along, either from a druid or wizard. That could also impact it, because this also adds to what Brad says again and again, putting the E back into PvE.
Yeah.
Adding the environment into it. So, when using portals, should there be any risks with these forms of travel? Do you see that there should be risks there?
Well, definitely. As Lex said earlier on, the further you're trying to port, the higher the risk, and you should be thinking twice about. We could probably run over as a group and not have an issue, than rather trying to teleport there, because I'm guaranteed that I might get teleportation sickness for 10 minutes, which reduces my stats by 50% until that port sickness goes away, type of thing. And that can be a real hindrance, especially if there is some way that your teleport could go wrong and you end up in the middle of an orc encampment, as you said, John. So, yeah, I think that there definitely should be some sort of risk. Just like it's risky for any class to play their class in battles and that type of thing.
What about you, Lex? Good risk there?
I'm thinking, and I'm trying to follow chat here too, and people are bringing up very good points. Let's assume that someone's on a limited time schedule and they need to get to somewhere so that they can log out. Like, just as an example, let's say you get rested experience in a town, so they teleport to that town, and now they're like 20 minutes away, but they're in the zone. They're just quite a few. They're on the opposite side of the zone. And now all of a sudden they can't get to their destination. That forces them to leave with a foul taste. I get it. But when I'm talking like there has to be a downside or a danger to it, it's not necessarily like a death or something like that major. You could even just do something like, maybe for 5 minutes your run speed's a little slower because you're disoriented. Maybe it's, you got discombobulated and now you're a chicken for 3 minutes. It doesn't even have to be something that affects you. It could be purely cosmetic.
Yeah.
It could be something to where when you, for 5 minutes, when you come out of your portal, your brain's a little scrambled, so when you're talking, it's in a different language, and no one can understand what you're saying.
That's pretty good. I like that.
But most games, right? Most MMOs that I've played and that I've witnessed, experienced, each class so far, each character that I've ever played, doesn't matter if it's a wizard, a tank, it doesn't matter what it is, we all had a call to home stone. Some sort.
Yes.
Be it a heartstone, be it this, be it that.
Yeah.
So
more modern games all have that. So that's my first argument. That makes that completely moot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because if that was a big deal, you would just return, bind, whatever you want to call it.
And the thing is, waiting for time. Right? Let's presume that they go with their original concept. Right? Obviously, they go with their original concept. You start off only being able to port yourself. So that means that fella's going to have to wait 20 minutes anyway, or he's going to have to run 20 minutes to get to the next town because the wizard can only port himself at the start, or the druid can anyway. So it's kind of like, it's going to happen regardless. People are going to have to run distances. Right. Or
I think in the end, it comes down to the easier it is, the less important it is. Mm-hmm. And when you're adding difficulty to, say, teleportation, there's most people would typically think that it's the caster because they're the one doing the actual teleportation. Mm-hmm. But if you do something that maybe it involves the people in the group, like for instance, for a group, you as a wizard, you summon a portal and it ticks down. If someone in the group is a caster, they can click on it too, it speeds the casting, but it also costs the wizard less. But it takes their mana away.
Yeah.
So if you were, there's just little things you can do to really spice it up.
Right, so let's go and have a look at the spicing up portion real quick, and then Josh, you can butt back in. So I mentioned earlier on, you have risks as well with the teleportation, because for me it's all about flavor. It's all about risk versus reward, the challenge that they want to put into the game, the journey that I'm having, and also the class development is a big factor. And this also, this combines it. Having portals be something that you develop over time adds to that class experience when you're playing a class, adds to your player experience as well. It gives you something to do on the downside, on your downtime when you've got no friends around. But let's have a look at some of the ways to counteract some of these risks that go into it. So let's also add in the means to help counteract and add a beneficial use to portals by other classes. All right, let's go and take other classes that can actually have some kind of impact. What if other classes could use some form of a relic, for instance? And we've seen it done before in other games where you could throw in stuff into campfires and it gives a buff for the group and everything. Let's say we do something similar to portals, right?
Yeah.
You have a relic, for a better lack of the word, that can be cast onto the portal that gives you a heal over time, or it shields you over time, or it gives you a buff that boosts up all your mitigation, or it boosts up the cast time of the portal, or the length of the portal, things like that. Would that make the experience with the portal or teleportation more engaging and fun? Would that kind of balance it all out? Or Josh, go on, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think any way that makes, especially in this game where group play is the key factor over here. Everybody wants to be involved. Everybody wants to get their to feel like they're included in these type of things. Now, if you are a wizard and you can only teleport, let's say, every hour, for instance, maybe there is a way to reduce that time from an hour down to 30 minutes because you've got a paladin in the party that casts a prayer on you, type of thing. Or you've got, I don't know, whatever other class it is, that will boost the journey through for you. They are definitely going to be beneficial and worthwhile grouping at the end of the day. And it's going to be quite a social experience then doing these teleportations at the end of the day that is going to help the group as a whole. So, yeah, there's definitely ways to make it interesting.
What's your say on this, Lex? Is it more engaging, more fun, or...?
I think it has opportunity to create more experiences with people. I don't think that's ever a bad thing. But you have to be careful which direction these experiences go. I mean, would it bother me if you were going to teleport me and you said, "Oh, there's a, I just got this spell. There's a good chance we might end up on the freaking moon." And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I'll roll the dice.
Yeah,
maybe
I would honestly. I'd be like, let's go for it. Let's see where we end up. Because
for me, it's totally dependent on my mood.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm having a bad day, the last thing I want to deal with is great. Now I got to run 3 more zones over.
Yeah, I mean, let's go and look at this, right? Let's go and have a look at this. Let's say, for instance, that does happen, right? That you do get ported somewhere randomly. That's a possibility of that happening. Now, it can be annoying. It can be a nuisance. It can be a hindrance. It can be a pain in the ass if that happens, right? So
PG.
Pain in the ass? Come on, right? Come on, Peter.
There are some delicate flowers out there.
Right?
Pain in the pooper.
Right, so let's say, for instance, now it's only within a zone of the destination that you're going to. So let's say, for instance, let's take Avendir's Pass as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You're porting to Avendir's Pass. Now, within that zone, there's a slight possibility that you might get ported somewhere else, because this new unexperienced wizard is still kind of learning to maintain, hold the power, keep the gate open, everything you go through. If they limit the destinations that you could possibly be ported to within the zone of teleportation, would that kind of make it better, more acceptable, more reasonable? Rather than
for me,
you're getting ported
for me,
instead of going to Avendir's Pass, you get ported to, I don't know, what other zones do we have out there? You get ported to Faithar, or to
the Mad Wizard Tower.
The Mad Wizard Tower is an example, exactly. Instead of that happening, you get ported only within the respected zone that you're going to.
I would say the more acceptable route, should that be something that was definitely going in, would be to keep it within the zone. Excuse me. But in terms of Pantheon, there's a problem with that, because we know zones aren't going to be your straight level 1 to 5, 6 to 10. There's going to be pockets of mobs that are very high, or could potentially be much higher level than the majority of the zone. So a nice middle ground would be, maybe there's 10 spots that are marked by the dev as teleportation locations. And whenever you teleport to that zone, you just go to one of the 10. It's not just say, oh, I always land here. Maybe it's I land here or here or here or here or here or here or here,
Yeah.
And you just kind of cross your fingers and hope that you don't have to run an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's definitely a way to look at it, because I find that experience of, because let me go behind the reason behind this. Why I think this should happen. Why I think having us have a risk factor that we get ported somewhere else. Right, and we'll go into the Druid and the Wizard right now. Go into the Druid and the Wizard. When we let's look at the Wizard first. When we speak of wizards and we see them in movies, TV shows, we read about them in books. Using this kind of magic, right? It's powerful magic. It costs a lot of concentration. It costs a lot of energy to maintain. So this is why it should be reflected in a game like this. Like Pantheon, I'm opening up a portal. I want to be able to, feel that effect happening to me when I'm opening up a portal. Wizards in general, they don't know all the magic. They use certain parts of magic. Some use dark magic, some use light magic, some use blue, some use red, some use green. Yeah, some use fireballs, some use ice. But they aren't, I can do everything, wizard. You have wizards that can only do something with teleportation and shields and this and that. And that's how it's always been in the sense of what we define as a wizard or as magic. So have that reflect to the wizard makes sense when they're opening up a portal. Right? There's you have this crystal ball, you're looking through this crystal ball, you can see the vision, you see where you want to go. But the way I imagine it happening is it's like a TV screen. You have switching images that are, they fade in, they fade out, they fade in, they fade out, and then you've got that risk factor. You're trying to concentrate on that location. You're trying to physically bind yourself to the location you want to go, and that's how it should. That's how it should be. That's why I think getting ported or having a risk of being ported rather instead of smack dead to your destination, you get ported a bit to the left or a bit further behind or a bit to the right. So there's that that risk factor there. That's why I think that this is something that I personally believe should be reflected somehow.
Right. Well, see, on that topic of yes, if you think about a teleportation spell, it would be ridiculously difficult, because of all the factors involved. I'm not going to get into that, but it's one thing that always bugged me in a lot of games that had teleportation, where your character gets it and it's like, oh, here you go. It's like, oh, okay, you're just going to hand it to me, or maybe you just buy the spell, or it's like, it's such a big deal for the classes that can do it. You would think that it would at least be accompanied by some form of quest line.
Yeah.
to kind of draw you in and kind of hammer home the importance of this ability.
You know, because me and Josh were talking about, you know, the wizard, and you know, normally it would cost you mana to use a portal, right? You open up a portal, it costs you a lot of mana. But what about if it costs you endurance as well? Right, because holding up a portal, opening up a portal, be it the druid or the wizard, in this manner, it costs energy, and the longer you hold it open, you should feel those effects. We see it time and again when a wizard uses a big, huge, massive fireball. Right?
Yeah.
His life is drained. He's on the floor. He's like, I need to catch my breath. And when you see wizards use dark magic, for instance, and that's where kind of portals kind of touch in. It's kind of dark magic. You're defining time and space of some sort. So it's dark magic you're kind of using there. You age quicker. Wizards age quicker. They become more liable to the effects and everything. Their mind starts to play tricks on them and stuff like that. So go on next.
Can you imagine the first time your character ports, you get a very minor cosmetic alteration, like say you have dark hair and now your wizard has like a gray streak.
That would be so good.
I mean, it's something that not a lot of people would probably notice at first, but eventually be like, oh my god. Completely useless, completely cosmetic, but like kind of mind blowing.
After the third teleportation, you get a message on your screen saying your character has died. Please re-roll your character.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I would love to see some kind of physical cosmetic marker after the wizard undergoes like their first teleportation, just because it's like, you know, it is obviously a strain, and while it doesn't have to be a full mechanic based on the whole like, oh god, you're gonna die because you're spending so much energy, it is kind of a small nod to your character has kind of gone through a lot to get to this point.
Because it should, you know, you should, you know, reap or feel the ramifications of trying to use this form of magic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it should be something that the more you learn or train this spell, the better control you have over. I do not want to see, personally, I would not want to see 100% guarantee every time I use a portal after I've maxed it out. Right? There should still always be a risk factor involved in porting, but it should be the more skill you have, the less chance of something negative happening. But there's always that chance of it happening still. You know, it shouldn't be 100% guarantee. It should be like 95%. You've got a 5% chance that something's going to get messed up. Be it you get a dot, or you get a detrimental spell on you, or you a HP loss or something like that, or a slow. You know, they should become less frequent the more you use it and have learned how to manage these spells. And that goes for the druid as well. Opening up a druid portal is also something that's going to strain you and drain you. So another idea was... go on, Nick. Go on, Josh.
I was just going to say that the one aspect would be that I would say that the wizard would need to visit and map out the certain area that he has fully before he can actually teleport to it. Mm-hmm. Be it a dungeon, be it an area, whatever the case may be. Because if you think about it, in traditional wizards, they need to be able to see a place in their mind where they're going to. And if they haven't seen that place. So the more they visit that spot, the more success they're going to have in teleporting to that place.
It's kind of like, you know, they have like the visual knowledge. So
yes.
This is something that we talked about, Josh, and I'll add in the other idea as well that you had. So what if wizards required a focal point or physical item that gives them a better chance of teleportation as well? Something that is in that desired zone where the port location is. There's a physical item or it's a focal point that they focus on to kind of, you know, help them get to their destination. Adding to what Josh said, obviously having to, you know, they have to know about this area. They have to know about this portal being there, or, you know, to get from A to B. It all depends on how they're going to do it. Is it something that you're just going to open up and you go through and then you come out the other end, or is it actually going to be some kind of spire, some kind of gateway, building passage, spire thing that you actually go to and from? We don't know how that is, visually going to look. But let's presume that they have, for the wizard in this sense, they have these gateways, and these are like little temples or something, like little spires that you go through. Now, first you have to discover that spire. And maybe there's also a item around that spire or something around that spire that you can focus on that also helps you. It's something that you can do additionally. This adds to the character development as well. This adds to your character development as a wizard. You have to, first off, you have to find that focal point. You have to find that item that you have to click, that you kind of like bind yourself with for that portal to help you have a better chance of getting there. Would that be something fun to engage in? Adding flavor and flair to the whole development of teleportation for the wizard. Do you think that's a good thing to do, guys? Lex, we'll start with you.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Because it adds more to it. It's a more robust system. I mean, if let's say, for instance, if there was a system where you had to create, for the wizard, you had to go and create yourself an anchor in the zone. That's how you got a teleportation to a zone. Yeah. That means you've got to go there. You undergo a quest or maybe some kind of crafting or something to create the anchor to that zone. And now you can go there. But you know what? I'll save it for later, but I can go one step further, and we're only 51 minutes into the show. And I can come up with a whole new teleportation system right now. Good thing.
Well, and the other thing to add to this, though, like with the adding a focal point, we know the world in some form is going to be dynamic. We do not know what kind of events they're going to add into the game, but let's say, for instance, we can also port to dungeons, just as an example, because they're open world. There is no instancing. So maybe you can port within a dungeon as well. Let's say, for instance, now Haunia's Cave gets overrun by a new species of NPCs, and they remove that focal point. That coming back to the risk versus reward, the risk factor of teleportation as well. You're focusing on, or trying to focus on, a chalice that is in Haunia's Cave, on a table when you first zone in. Normally, there's a bit further down the road. There's this table with the chalice on it. If you're focusing on that thingy, that item's now disappeared, but you port through, and now there's that risk again. Would that also be something cool to see happen, where focal points can be affected by the environment itself, by the game itself, by NPCs?
That would be pretty funny, I think, if that chalice was thrown into a stream, a river, in the cave itself.
Yeah.
You port there and you're drowning.
Yeah. With Pantheon putting an emphasis on environment, I think that would actually fit. Minor alterations, but I mean, I think it would still fit. So I don't see it as a bad thing.
I mean, I think that from a risk as well, do we feel that those anchor stones, or whatever they are at the end of the day, can be moved by the mobs? Yeah, I think it'd be quite interesting. But there should be a way out of it as well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Right, so let's go have a look at the Druid right now, because the Druid, we have a slightly different approach to this one. So we know the Druid will be using Wandering Stones to create portals, or that's what the portal gates are called in that sense. I do not quite know, but I'm going to say they use Wandering Stones. Or whatever, I don't know why I said they use them, but let's say that these Wandering Stones were tiered. There were different types of Wandering Stones that allow the Druid to better hold open a portal.
Yeah.
You could even require some form of a physical item that is required and needs to be enchanted to be able to interact with a wandering stone or whatever they're going. Maybe chat knows better. Wandering stones, is that what they call their druid rings, or is that a physical item that they're going to be using? I don't know, but I'm just going to refer to the first one. They have to use.
My only question is, do wandering stones show up on tracking?
I don't know.
Because they're wandering.
So let's say they have to interact with some kind of item. They have to use a physical item to be able to even open up a portal. What would the item look like? Would they be portable and tradable? Would it even be enjoyable, a system like that? Could you see that being enjoyable for druids and players alike if they're tradable, for instance? That also helps as well. That also helps the engagement with the social aspect of the game, with the grouping of the game, people finding these items that can be enchanted for the druid to use to port, to use these nature rings or wandering stones or whatever they're going to call it. Who wants to start? Josh, Lex? Lex, Josh?
Well, I think that how should we get this to work? There we go. I think that they can be tradable, and I do think that these druid rings, or they call fairy rings in some games, or druid stones, or whatever the case may be, they should definitely, the item that you have, or the focal item that you use to get there, you should be able to discover it.
Mm.
And you should, as a druid, have to discover those rings as well throughout the world before you can actually use them. So I definitely think, again, similar to the actual wizard, you being able to have to go to that zone first and then discover it is your primary objective, is the key to it. And that should be the way that you can go from one of these stones to the other.
Yeah. Lex?
I've actually had a bit of a problem with druid rings. Like, assuming these wandering stones are akin to, we'll say, the druid rings in EverQuest. Because I forget if or how teleportation was done in Vanguard. It didn't bug me so much for the druid, but it really bugged me for the wizard. How they could only go to like the certain location. With the druids, it's kind of like, it's more of a holy site for them, so it would make sense that that's where they teleport to. Yeah. And every druid would want to teleport there. If it's a reagent, I see no reason not to be able to trade it and stuff. I would not like to see something like, say the Wandering Stone is a reagent. I don't want to see something where you can like pre-charge that stone and then hand it to somebody. To me, that's just a little too easy.
Yeah.
But like, I'd like to see wizards a little more flexible, because arcane magic, in mythos or whatever you want to call it, in the realm of fantasy, it tends to be a little more flexible in their rules than, say, something that's a little more typically cleric based, like a druid.
Yeah.
Because everything is based on, usually, their god in most cases, so it tends to be a little more rigid in its rules.
Yeah.
It's kind of sounding like the EQ system.
Well, it does. A druid is always going to be based on nature, right? So nature should be the major factor when it comes to being able to port to places. So that should be the primary concern. Whether the weather system in Pantheon is going to play a major part in the portation side of druids is another story. I hope it does. But definitely, there's so much fun to build into the druids and the teleportation with the use of the environment. I think it'll be much better. I think.
Let's go and have a look at that. Let's go and explore that possibility right now. So let's say that the weather and the environment does have some kind of impact on Druid rings, nature rings, wandering stones, whatever they're going to be called at the end of the day. And if we look at it, right, Josh said it as well, nature. Now, you might have zones where nature is unbalanced. So maybe there are Druid rings, nature rings, wandering stones out there that have to be unlocked or fixed of some sort of way. So maybe you could even add in the crafting process towards it as well, that they have to be rebuilt from the ground up, or to be able to be accessed. Maybe there's some kind of quest line to unlock the use of this Druid ring of sorts, and then having the weather, play
and maybe the stone itself needs to be blessed in a certain way at a certain time of the year in order to be used to build up a ring.
So this is another thing that we looked at as well. Looking at the downside of it as well. What if these Druid rings weren't always accessible due to the environment or the weather? Maybe there's some really bad weather, it snowed over, you can't really use it now anymore, you can't get to that destination. Or there's a sandstorm or massive windstorm of some sort happening. A hurricane is overseeing this current area, or a detrimental environment is now active in that zone that doesn't allow you necessarily a means to travel there. But again, this comes with the point of, how can you counteract that to some extent, which we'll look at in a minute. But let's have a look at that, right? Say that these Druid rings are affected by weather and affected by the climate. And what about them having some kind of degrading factor to them? Don't forget, these are technically man-made ancient buildings, ancient rings. And we've seen what happened to Stonehenge time and again. It's been refurnished, rebuilt time and again. It's been damaged, and that happens over the years and over time. So, and should that happen to these rings as well, or do you want to, once you've got them, you can access them regardless? Personally, I think that would add some flavor to it, where I can't access a ring all the time because now it's kind of damaged. But in order for me to be interesting enough, I need to have some kind of means to feel that something is wrong with that destination's ring. Don't forget, it's balanced through nature. A druid is nature pure. It's in the earth. It's in the ground. I should be able to touch the ground with my hand and feel that something is wrong with portal, I don't know, windblower. Let's say they have different names. What are you laughing at, Lex? I mean it, man.
We need to find an artist that can make comic strips, because I just got a picture of you as a druid.
Oh god, me too.
Bending down, putting your hand on the ground and going, something's wrong.
With this ring.
Come up and go, what is it? And you go, my hand's in horse.
No, but it should be, because that adds again to the personal class experience going through the class development, and it's not something I should be able to do straight away. This adds to the development of it, the skill side of it. The more I'm bound and connected to the Druid rings, to the network, whatever, wandering stones, whatever you want to freaking call it, the more I have a balance, a connection, a feeling towards all these rings. Right? That's how I kind of like to see it happen. Over time, I get a better understanding of the rings. I'm kind of like bound to them, connected to them in some way, and through that connection, I can now sense when danger is afoot at that ring. Because let's take.
Okay. What about this? Well, if the past is any indication, in Pantheon, Druids could quite possibly end up controlling the weather to some extent, or at least clearing it up. So let's say you go to teleport to someplace and it casts, but it fizzles out and basically says, you can't go there because of whatever reason. Mm-hmm. If Druids had their own chat channel, we'll say, because they're connected to nature, kind of thing. Justified however you want.
Yeah.
They could ask someone to, if that's near that zone, to go clear up the weather so they can port there.
Yeah, that brings the social aspect. The engaging
Right.
with others.
You're technically socializing with your own sub community, but that's still not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's also teamwork. And when most people think Druid, you think of a decent amount of camaraderie. They aren't at their throats as much as, say, like most warriors are, or at least in my experience. So I like it because of the opportunities for socialization that you can create from that system.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that from the degradation of the stones over time and through controlling of the weather, I definitely think that it should affect the way that druids can move around. And I think when we discussed this at some point, I think I said that it could be something that is seasonal. So
the weather affect it as well, yeah.
Yeah, where you can maybe you have 100% chance of porting during clear sunny weather, but only 50% chance of going through properly when it's crappy weather or it's in the dead of winter or things of that nature at the end of the day. So as good as weather can be for druids, it can also really hinder them ultimately trying to get through.
There should always be that for every action you have a reaction. So if a druid can control weather, it should also have an effect on what he might be controlling as a counterpart. But there's always a balance. There's always a balance. For everything that's bad, they make something good. For everything that's good, there's always something bad, right? And that's how it should be. When we talk about degradation, for instance, or let's have a look at, with that, they might have to be maintained as well. That's where you can get the crafters involved over time.
Yeah.
Every now and then, they might need to be maintained. So this could be a event that happens every now and then, all over the world, wherever these rings are. They might have some kind of event going on in these zones that require crafters and druids alike to come together and, maintain that ring. They could even have maybe dev events happen, or GM events in this case, where NPCs attack the rings and now they're in danger of being destroyed. They get destroyed, for instance, but going back
rebuild. If they get destroyed, you got to rebuild them. Good crafters.
Exactly. Now this adds to the whole social aspect, the engaging with the community, talking, and this also adds to the whole experience of the game. It's not just.
It makes it feel less. Here are the rings. If you can use them or not.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Now it's like then it suddenly becomes a case of you can now use these rings for whatever means. But now you have to maintain them because otherwise everybody loses the ability to use them.
Exactly.
And this also goes with the wizard as well. The wizard spires, for instance, the gateways, they might also need to be maintained. They might need to have some kind of arcane energy put into them every now. Batteries like Duracell. They need to have batteries put back into them.
Just rub it with a gnome.
Yeah, maybe you need to sacrifice 5 gnomes per spire, and then off you go.
Done.
The blood of these gnomes will.
But those are things that kind of add to the whole experience of the game. It's not just here you go, here's your portals, you can port there. This makes you feel great and happy. While that's cool, while I might feel great and happy because I can port everywhere, I'm past that whole. Just give it to me, let me be able to do it, and I'm done. Challenge me.
Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like being on a treadmill. You've passed that point, and there's no reason to look back.
Yeah.
You kind of. I mean, granted, it's still a glorified treadmill in a in one way of thinking, that if you create a way to come back, you are extending the amount of playtime for your players, and you don't really got to do a whole lot to it. You're just going back there. So in a way, it is still a treadmill, but it's a treadmill that takes up time in between major events.
And again, it's something like, it gives you something to do when your core group's not online, your guild's not online, your raid force not online. You don't really want to log off, but you want to do something productive. Go help your wizard. Go help maintain those wizard gateways. Or your druid. Go help, do something with the druid rings. If you're currently in a zone that needs the weather freed up, you cast your spell and off you go. You're actually engaging and doing something to contribute, because each game always, every MMO is the same. Hey, be the hero in this great story, this great game, this great adventure. You become the hero, and what you do matters and everything. Well, make it feel like what I'm doing actually matters, and let it be representative of what I'm doing. Let me visually see that what I'm doing actually matters, and that is the case with, what we've talked about. Having the portals and the gateways and whatever they're all going to be called, be interactive. Be maintained, have the players have to interact with them time and again. It makes it, feel like you're actually doing something, you're contributing to the world,
Right.
It's like it always is. It's like in real life as well. Yes, I know this is a game at the end of the day. We're meant to have fun, but there is fun in doing this as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And an important thing to consider is that it's not like every hour you've got to defend or rebuild or whatever. You could have days or weeks in between these events, because there's going to be, because each of these rings will say that they're static, like the Druid rings.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them would exponentially increase the amount that event would show up. So even if they're like short duration in between them, then it's going to be like constant nonstop. It's like, that's all I do as a Druid. I hate this class. But if you extend them enough to where it's like, maybe you see one a week, I think that's perfectly fine. Like once a week, a stone or a Druid ring somewhere in the world either has to be defended, or when it's all said and done, it has to be rebuilt.
Yeah,
correct.
Because honestly, if it has to be rebuilt, if you come together with people, it shouldn't take that long. Because it's a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, it shouldn't be something that's going to be, such a nuisance. Like you said, every day I've got to go and rebuild these damn rings. No, it happens sporadically with a reasonable time frame behind it. Either it being built within the game already, or it's something that a GM does. GM's like, hey, Kelsey's like,
it could just be at GM's discretion.
I've had a bad day, so I'm gonna let you feel my bad day. And I'm gonna go and deactivate rings X, Y, and Z.
Which honestly would be a pretty good event anyway, as long as you give a way to reactivate them.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could do something similar with the wizard, only maybe it's when they zone in, there's a chance that it gets damaged.
Yeah.
So the more a particular...
They get electrocuted.
Maybe, where all of a sudden I got like this bad 70s Frankenstein's electricity thing going in my head.
Yeah.
But that way you have any particular point, like for the wizard as an example, any high traffic areas are going to require a little more TLC.
Because, make it feel like it's like a mini game, the teleportation in itself. So let's go have a look at mini game real quick before we go and touch on the big one, do not ever talk about this.
World Don't touch me there game?
Yes, world teleportation. We're going to look at world teleportation in a minute, but before we do that, let's have a look at how do you see the visual of these means of travel? Right, for the wizard, for the druid. So how do you envision the druid portal and rings to look like, to kind of be interacted with? And we'll go with you, Lex, first.
Now, are you talking like animations and such during the process?
Animations, the whole process, the whole shebang.
One thing that I've always felt fairly strongly about, and I honestly don't understand why, because I've never played a teleporter or a caster besides a necromancer with any amount of dedication.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you teleport, I think you should get a unique loading screen. When you're going from where you were to where you're going, I think you should get something that is unique. Not your standard, loading, please wait. Done. Here you are. Make it more of a special instance. So if I had my way, I would say with a druid, it would be more of the caster does their thing. Maybe obviously you need sparkle, and maybe you sink into the ground, depending on how they want to do it. You get your special load screen, and when you load in, it's basically the group coming out of the ground. Maybe it's through a plant, whatever. Let your imagination run wild. If it's a wizard, I almost want to be part of he just summons the portal, and I have to click on it, which would signify me walking through. Maybe I can't physically walk through it. It's just a small circular zone line.
Yeah.
And you would get your unique load screen, and you come back, and maybe it's just a picture of your character walking out of it.
Yeah.
It's a little more immersive than cast spell, loading, please wait, loaded, here I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Texan has it right nail on the head. It's like a Stargate wormhole moment. Like remember the movie when Daniel Jackson sees it for the first time, he's like touches him, it's just like whoa.
Gets drawn in, you get sucked in.
Why can't I get that feeling in a game?
I
don't want to actually reach out and be like, look, portal.
I would rather have one of those worms from Dune come and swallow everybody up, and then appear in the new location and poop you out, and go back down.
Right, so me and Josh, we talked about the Druid, for instance, and we, and I kind of talked about my vision on the Wizard. So I'll quickly go for this, Josh, and then you can add to it. All right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
let's say we have a Druid ring, like in EverQuest 2, you name it. Right? You have Druid rings that we port to. I like to see basically when I'm doing my, I'm casting the spell to port as a Druid. You see like vines form around the ring, and they move towards the center of the ring, and they build this gateway, this like vine tree portal kind of thing that opens up. That's how I would physically like to see it done. Like you actually see the portal kind of getting built around, from around the ring, going towards the center, open up the gateway for me to go through with my group. That's how I picture the Druid. And the Wizard, right, for some unknown reason, that image that was posted in, I think, the August newsletter, I think it was, of the Sperengi Temple portal. That's how I picture a Wizard portal looking like. But, again, coming back to the beginning of what I said earlier on, I want to see flashes of destination. So, and this could also be something that goes towards the Druid as well. The more destinations you have that you've collected, that you've accessed, that means when you open up a portal, instead of just clicking on it and you go through, you have like little flashes of each individual destination that you can go through. And they could be like, they could start off, this is how I picture it happening for the difficulty, the risk versus reward, and the counteracting by people adding towards it. So at the beginning, it would flash fast, but you can have people counteract that fast flashing so that you have more time to click on it and actually get to the destination you're going through. That's how I kind of envision them looking, right? And obviously, once you've actually been able to control this and access this, that vision stays for a longer period of time. So now you've got the vision of Halnia's cave shimmering through, and similar to what Lex said, you actually see yourself go through, and the visual for this would be, you see your shadow jump out of your body. Like you leave a fuming portion of yourself as you go through. You see like this ghostly image go through, and on the other end, this ghostly image comes out, and then plop, there you are. That's how you got to that destination. What are you laughing about, Lex?
Oh, let's talk about poop, and now it's like, there you go, plop. I know. I'm 12 years old. Get over it.
That's how I kind of envision it. I know. I want to see
Yeah.
something really nice, rather than just going, and then it goes. You click on it. You got a UI window. I want to go to A, B. I want to go there. I want to go there. Oh, I want to go there.
Yeah, I think that would be cool for the druid if he had like special enchanted like acorns, for instance, and he chucked it on the ground, boom, and then it created these. Yeah. It grew into the portal area where people could step through, basically, within the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the wizard itself just needs some sort of just like the Stargate wormhole type of thing, right, where people can step through that. And
mm-hmm. Well, my wife, when I talked to my wife about this and the idea of the wizard and everything, she said she
told you go away, leave me alone. I'm in the bathroom.
Best, right? There's this kids' TV show called Super Monsters, and Dracula basically learned to teleport, and he basically told his daughter that she was trying to nag. She was nagging him. He's like, "Shut up! I need to concentrate, otherwise I'm gonna get ported somewhere else." That's how it should be for a wizard. He has to concentrate. It's going to cost you energy, focus, power to hold that portal open. So no distractions. Dracula needs to concentrate to be able to port to the right destination. Otherwise, he's going to end up somewhere else. And that's how it should be for the wizard. But anyway. We talked about the wizard, we talked about the druid, we talked about the druid and the wizard, we talked about VR and vision. Let's go and talk about something really crazy now. And this is something that's very touch and go.
Range of teleportation?
World teleportation. Right? People don't want to see fast travel. We get it. We don't want to see fast travel. And this is why we've talked about some of these ideas and added some risks and added some means to kind of keep it from being... you just click on it and off you go. But let's say there's also world teleportation. So far, we've looked at the local teleportation of sorts. All right, let's say that these are locally connected. But let's go and have a look at world teleportation. Let's say in the world of Terminus, there are life trees for the Druid on each continent that a Druid can access to allow for teleportation between continents. But to do so, requires a bonding process of sorts. Right? That's just one idea, where they have to go through this meaningful process. They have to even discover these trees first, these life trees. So maybe that's part of the Druid lore, part of the Druid perception, per se. It could be added to the perception of the Druid that he learns about these life trees that allow him to pour. And in regards to the wizard, there would be world spires. That would maybe this would require... to be built, to be rediscovered, to be reopened of some sort. But the thing is, to actually access these life trees or these world spires would require more than just you going there and doing your bonding process. It would actually require multiple wizards and multiple druids to do it. Now here's the kicker. When these portals are activated, they aren't activated and that's it, you're done. They actually have a time limit. They're only open for certain periods of time before they shut down and have to be reactivated again. There's a cooldown. You can add a global cooldown to them. But it would also allow people to travel between continents in a faster means. So it's kind of like a fast travel. But we thought about, well, how can you limit the fast travel aspect of it? By limiting the accessibility of these world pools. You could even have a global cooldown that says maybe they can only be accessed like Lexa said earlier on with the events happening maybe once a week. You can open up these life trees, the name we've given them for now, and world spires. Maybe they can only be accessed at certain points every week or every 24 hours, and they're open for like 30 minutes or something like that, or an hour or whatever. So that's something that we looked at. Like I said, they might need to be discovered. Life trees might also require some form of regeneration to reactivate and require some crafted items. These forms of travel would allow anybody to basically travel from one continent to the other. What do you think about this idea of world travel in regards to the wizard and druids?
Well, I certainly don't think that it should be from one major city to another, as Jackson says, simply because it just makes cheapen the experience so much that you can just jump to all the major world areas. I think it should just be in areas which give hints of danger of going to them, and they might not be off the beaten road, but they might just be in a place where you've got a high likelihood that mobs could be on those roads or those type of things.
That's definitely the case. You know, the way I see this, they wouldn't be at major cities. Definitely not. They would be outside in the wilderness. Right, so there's still some form and means of movement, but it allows you to go from one continent to the other. Lex, what about you? What do you think about this idea of having world portals that are accessible, that also have limitations on the access, that require multiple wizards and druids to engage in them? And where would you put them?
Well, the idea you should suggesting, the easiest way to visualize it is that each continent is its own bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're inside of a bubble, you can teleport anywhere within there that you've unlocked. Or is available, or however you want to do it. And then your world tree or world spire idea is the bridge that connects the two bubbles. Or one bubble to another bubble. Meaning you can go from one to the other one, and then all of a sudden that becomes your local teleportation area.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting idea. I would love to be a part of the testing group that in whatever game implements something like that. Because I think it could work. Because, you know, the biggest draw between a wizard and a druid in terms of teleporting is that some can offer zones that the other can't.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say for a minute that you go with a more dynamic teleport system where you can only teleport to a limited number of places, but the player chooses those locations. Or at least zone-wise, right? So that no longer becomes an issue. But how you can value one over the other is by saying the World Spire is only on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the weekend. And then you have the World Tree that's only available Tuesday, Thursday, you know, basically opposite days. And that way there's always a bridge open to the next continent. But it just might not be your time to make the big buck. You know, if you were doing a taxi service, say. It has interesting economic ramifications. It would certainly impact the flow of characters from one continent to another in quite an interesting way. It would be very interesting to see the metric. It would also not devalue any transportation means that is implemented in the game, because maybe there's just no wizards on at the moment, or they're all busy, and you still need to get to the next continent, and the world tree is down. Well, you're taking the boat.
Yeah.
Maybe the cost of teleporting locally is cheap, but going to another continent, which by all means should take more power, you know, or be more difficult to achieve.
That's where the use of multiple wizards or druids comes in. So you might
maybe that would be
to cast this portal to open it up.
Maybe that would be a way to get around the World Spire is closed or out of juice for now until they work on it. You could just get 2 or 3 wizards in a group, and now that's your teleportation, or your teleportation means to another continent. It just takes more juice. But then you got to think that if you're going to do multiple wizards anyway, like let's just say it's 2 wizards to get to another continent, or 2 druids, just because you need the raw power to do it. is there really any reason to have the World Spire or the World Tree? Because you've already opened up socialization. You've made things a little more complicated in terms of, if the wizard's in a group, if the two wizards in a group, that's one less party member that goes across. Now one teleport is two. Not a huge deal, but kind of a pain.
The difference would be, Lex, just sorry for butting in, right?
Yep.
With having two wizards, like for instance in the group or the druid, that means he would be able to travel teleport. They would be able to teleport the group only. With the world tree and the
so it's like it sends it. It's like sends them off.
Basically, what would happen is how I picture the world teleportation working is you require 3-4 wizards, doesn't matter what the number is, or druids, to access the life tree or the world spire. But once that's actually open, anybody anybody can use them, regardless of being in that group or being a part of the group or the raid or whatever, to access them. Anybody can go to and from for a certain period of time. Obviously, we have to limit the time factor of these portals being open.
I got it. So the idea of the world spire or the world tree, you can make it like a class specific quest.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a global quest where you could use it to get anything out of the game that you want. Maybe it's a way to get items out of the game. Maybe it's a way to get cash out of the game. Maybe it's just a way to extend playtime by getting people to do a quest. And it can be, collect X, kill X, whatever. And you have to do this in order to empower it, and it works for a week.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that becomes a means for the developers to get stuff out of the economy, which is probably one of the largest challenges to a developer, is how to get stuff out of the game. It's easy to get stuff in, but it's hard to get stuff out.
Yeah.
So that would go a fairly long way. There's other issues that come with that, depending on which way you take it, but we won't get into that. And you could also say that while it's down, you can still get to the other continent, but you need another druid or wizard, depending on who's the caster in the group that's doing the teleporting. Excuse me. They don't have to be in the group, they just help empower it.
Yeah, exactly.
By clicking a portal or whatever, just to make it stronger so that you can get over there. And now all of a sudden you have the taxi system, for lack of a better term, almost working in cooperation, because you need someone there to just help.
Exactly.
But then, that person's time should be reimbursed somehow. It doesn't have to be. Maybe the person's just a nice guy or girl and just wants to help.
Yeah.
But it could be a way that if the market's saturated with a lot of taxi people into a portal, it could be a way of still helping things move forward in that subsystem and still creating a social event.
You got 2 factors or 3 factors to it. You've got the local travel within the zones or the areas and everything that the wizard or the druid can do by himself or the group. Then you've got the world transportation that is accessible to everybody with whatever cost system they put in there, however they want to do it. Maybe it's free still, the travel, but the limitations are that they aren't accessible all the time. But now you've got your group and you want to go from continent A to continent B. There's a wizard running past you or a druid running past you. You speak to them. Hey, can you help us open up this portal? We want to travel over to the next continent. He helps you out. You give him a bit of coin and that. So you've got so they all complement each other and they don't stand in each other's way at the same time.
Right.
There's benefits to having, or there's a benefit to all of them, and they complement each other. There's no hindrance. You still got the ships to travel over as well. If you want to take the long part, it takes you maybe 15 minutes to get from one continent to the other. You want to make a sandwich, grab a cup of coffee, off you go. You take the boat. Right,
and that's the thing. I'm not saying it's a good system. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's not without its flaws. But as a person who pays a lot of attention to design of mechanics and such, I would be extremely interested to see that kind of system in hands-on.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the metrics behind it.
Would you enjoy a system like that, though, personally?
I think I would.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say for sure, but because there are days where I'm going to be strapped for time, and it's just, I just want to get there. I'm impatient today. I just want to get there and get whatever I'm after done. But I think deep down in the end, I would enjoy the system because it would feel a little more immersive and a little less like done.
And plus, it also, you're giving people options. Regardless of their play style, regardless of what time they have. So people that want to take the longer travel, they go by foot, they go to the docks, they get onto a boat, they travel across the continent. Others run through the zones to get to their destination. Others use a local port from a wizard or from a druid. Other people want to open up the portals for world travel. And be social. So you're kind of giving people all the kinds of options and forms of travel, and then you've also got the horses and mounts to look at. Go on.
One thought that I do have is that because having those things activated might be considered a little on the easier side, depending on the how those things are activated and such. Mm-hmm. You could go a step further. It's like, well, this is activated. You only need one wizard or one druid to get across the continent. But you could say it only teleports them or their companions to a very specific spot on the continent. And then if they want to go to another zone, they have to teleport again. And it could just be a matter of you have to wait 20 seconds.
That would be the case anyway.
Right. Well, sometimes not, because if it's activated, it's just you use the port for Zone X, that's just over there, and that's where you go.
Yeah, the vision behind my vision is there's actually physically you have like a gateway in Rainbourne or whatever the area is. You have one in Whitethorn. You have another one on Kingsreach. They've got those 3 gateways. They're in locked physical positions, and you go from one to the other. And the same with the ring, the life tree. The life tree would be a physical positioned tree within these continents. There isn't exactly. You basically open up the world portal and you go, I want to go near Thronefast, so I get ported somewhere near Avendir's Pass. No, you get ported to that physical location on the other side.
Yeah. What if? Just bear with me. Or what if you get rid of the spire and you get rid of the tree? You just call it like a world bridge. It's only open for a limited time. You have to do stuff. The community has to work together to keep it activated through whatever means. And what it does is it allows faster than, say, boat travel to non-teleporters. And that way, you can make it difficult enough to where the boats are still relevant. But it's a big deal when it's activated.
You just want to be able to.
No, I'm thinking of
gnomes and throw them into the frickin' spire to load up the energy again. So go gnome hunting.
No, because I'm just going to use gnomes to power my flashlight. Halflings, now that's a different story. I have a thriving halfling pickling business that has to come first.
Halflings could be what are needed for the life tree. You need to hang a halfling from the tree branch.
Beat it till the gold falls out.
Like a piñata.
Yes. Beat it until the red candy comes out.
So anyway, this is... have you guys got anything else to add? Any other questions? Any other ideas you want to bring in?
No.
Or are you guys good?
I'm good.
So Josh is good. What about you, Lex?
I think I'm good.
All right, so this was our discussion, having a closer look at VR's Druid and Wizard teleportation, how they envision it working, and what we envision happening, or what they could possibly do to kind of enhance the whole process, the idea, the experience that you would have, kind of, bring more of the social aspect around, the engaging with others, working together with others, and having like more more risk, more fun, more engagement with the character development. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I don't.
Next week we have a player Q&A where we'll be sitting down with, let me get their name. Actually, no, we won't be sitting down. I have to check again. What's next? Yes,
Sunday.
Yes, we are. We're sitting down with, let me see what his name was. Not Sunday, that's the week after that, Josh.
Okay.
The week after. Yeah, next week's player Q&A, we'll be sitting down with one of the founders of Pantheon Rising to talk about Pantheon, obviously, and get to know and introduce them to the community. That will be happening next Saturday. The week after that, we will be streaming at a special day, which will be a Sunday. We'll be sitting down with the Dungeon Crawler Network to talk to them about Pantheon, tell them what Pantheon is about, answer some of their burning questions that they have about the game, and introduce it to their
I have a burning question. Put gold bonds on it.
And we'll see you all. Yes, the 27th. It'll be the 27th. It's a Sunday. Yep, Sunday. We'll be streaming on a Sunday.
Sunday.
Same time though, 6 p.m. So it'll be
Yep.
the 27th is Sunday. We'll be streaming 6 p.m. Sit down with the Dungeon Crawler Network. We had to modify and try to compensate for their availability as well as ours. So we came up with the 27th. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next time.
Take care, guys.